going along with this, we realised that we needed to be looking at our assessment as well. We're in the process at the moment of reviewing our assessment schedule because, of course, we need to include lots of these new strategies and lots of these new assessment tasks in that, and we want to make sure that what's in the assessment schedule is actually being used for good purpose. So we do regularly use the on-demand testing to track student growth. We do participate in the progress tests, and can I just say, God bless them, we had the grade 2s in there yesterday having a turn on the progress test. We thought that might be a good idea. I think it was suggested at a principal network meeting somewhere. Oh, anyway, they did really well. The grade 3 teachers are really in for a treat, I've got to say, but we need to work on that. Look, truly, it makes you understand how if you don't go back and have a look at some of those things that happen on the NAPLAN test and just give kids a chance to experience them, they get into grade 3 and they sit their NAPLAN test and truly, even that mouse just goes all over the place. So, it's really important to make sure, and they just the whole format of that testing is quite foreign to them. So, and we're looking at using the NAPLAN, of course, in different ways now. So we're being more reflective in how we're using it. We're delving deeper into what's expected of it, and we're looking more at what are the literacy strategies that are required to answer those sorts of things on NAPLAN. Now, we know we need to do a bit more work on our assessment schedule in terms of tracking and assessing our HRLTPs. We do have some grades are better at this than others and have developed quite a range of pre and post testing. But that is one thing that we're very aware of that we need to work on so that we can actually show that there's been progress made. Okay, in terms of our data, tracking the results on our on-demand testing, it does show consistent growth. Led by our principal, we're a staff that have come to love data. Data is our friend. And we have been a little bit disappointed that the on-demand testing doesn't necessarily align with the NAPLAN, but I'm sure that, I guess that happens in quite a few schools. We can see growth. The on-demand testing is showing fantastic growth. It doesn't always transfer onto NAPLAN, but we can see it in the work that the children are doing as well. We know NAPLAN is just a snapshot. We say that to ourselves. It's like a mantra. NAPLAN is just a snapshot. The benchmarking data reveals that this year has seen a massive improvement in outcomes in the P1 students, and that was very important to us. Our prep data, bearing in mind that they come in, many of them with very little English. We've done a lot of work. I've worked in the Prep 1 area this year, and we've completely changed the way we approach the teaching. We use the high reliability strategies right from the word go, from the time they step in the door. And already, as well as the on-demand testing, as well as the literacy interview that they did at the just recently, so that we could compare apples with apples, we looked at the we benchmarked them again, and we had about 60% of our preps last year not reaching benchmark, not reaching level 5. I think we've got about 25%, 25% this year, so there's been massive improvement. And of course that 25%, we all know there's various reasons there in terms of, 3 children have just arrived from overseas, etc. They've only been speaking English for 2 months, and we've got children on disability programs, etc. So, yes, we think we made that 15% improvement in that area already. We're very, very pleased with that. With the data too, we think teachers have a better knowledge of using the data to inform teaching, and in terms of their discussions with each other. They're much more focused, and they have much more challenging discussions. And I think we've actually ascertained which data is useful for us at this stage. So we're actually getting rid of some of the things that we had in our previous assessment schedule because we were doing them, but we weren't actually using them to any good, putting them to any good use. We also audited, did a staff audit. This is just an example in terms of something that we did. There was about 4 pages. We were looking at evaluating changes in teaching practice, evaluating how we thought the teachers were implementing it, how the students were using it. The teachers were asked to rank that on a scale. Then there were several questions talking about how evaluating what sorts of things they did to implement it, how we could help them further as learning leaders, what further PD they would like, and looking towards planning for the future for next year. We feel as though we've spent a lot of time putting the literacy strategies into place. We needed to know from them, from the teachers, how they felt they were going once again before we whipped into our 2010 plan. So these are a few of the comments. In terms of the question, how can the learning leaders support you in your literacy practice? Yes, you literacy practice well. They could support you by helping you with your spelling, for a start. So these are some of the things that they said, and we were involved in the planning a lot more. Previous to possibly the last couple of years, we've allowed teachers have just planned in their teams. We've been a lot more involved in that as well, including the principal. So there's a lot more input. We need to continue to work on assessment for learning. They actually want us to go and watch them teach. Isn't that lovely? They're actually inviting us in. So, well, I joke about it, but that's a huge shift at our school. To begin with, they were a bit like James showed, a little bit closed door and very nervous about it. But now they're actually saying, "Will you come into my room?" which is fantastic. And if you see here, one of the questions was, what would you find useful for your continued professional development in literacy learning? They've mentioned sharing ideas and practice, continued discussions, etc., etc. And one little sweetheart said they wanted a mentor or a coach. So that's a big shift. That's a big shift that we're actually invited into the rooms and they're happy for us to be there. Okay, Carolyn's just going to have a quick chat about PLTs. I'm watching Lena. Yep.
Team meetings had been a feature of teaching at Thomastown for a long time. The P4 teachers met fortnightly for early years meetings, and teachers in all grades often got together to plan. With the implementation of progress testing and the focus of the AIZ on using data, meetings changed, and so teachers in grade 3 to 6 began meeting on a regular basis. In grade 5-6 we had a process for working on numeracy that used assessments conducted before each learning unit to identify teaching groups and to plan instruction for these groups. Children were made aware of their learning pathways through the use of capacity matrices on which they plotted their abilities before the unit and on which they showed growth afterwards. So, frustrated by the data we received after the first round of progress testing in May this year, we decided to extend this process to the 3-4 area. So we used numeracy rather than literacy as our focus. We felt that the process of using assessment in numeracy fitted in with the big picture that Patrick Griffin had presented. So in our PLT, we've worked on producing assessments for the 3-4 area and on differentiating learning. While it's been beneficial, we're constantly refining what we do. We're still confused and a bit disappointed by the ALPS data, and so the 3 to 6 PLT really is a work in progress. The Prep to Grade 2 teachers have continued to meet as they always have. Their PLTs are not as yet structured the same way as ours, but they're getting there, working on it.